This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelley Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here. Well, hello friends, and thank you so much for joining me for another conversation. I would say here with my girl Taylor, but I'm actually recording a solo today. Yes, for the very first time in 2.5 years, Taylor and I are just pulled in so many different directions between our kids out for the summer, between everything that we have going on with Level Up. Let me just recap everything that we have going on with Level Up because it's truly, really an exciting time. First things first, we are in the thick of our 12-week Mastermind program, which we launch twice a year. We're really excited to be bringing that back for a group of filmmakers and photographers in the fall. So in October, if this is something where you're sitting here being like, I've been a long-time listener, I love the mission of Level Up, and I'm ready to get my business to that next level for an incredible 2026 season, the fall session is going to be for you. So we hope to see you inside. You can go over to thelevelupco.com/mastermind for more information. And we launched earlier this month in July. I'm recording right now. It's July 17th. So this may be going out in August. We'll see. But we launched our first private networking group called League by the Level Up Co. It has been so much fun. We have over 80 filmmakers, photographers, and planners throughout the country that are just ready to network in a different way, to understand what networking can do for their business, to be able to position themselves in front of the networking audiences and events that they belong in with where their business is and where they want to get their business. It's been so much fun. And so with all of that going on, and like I said, our mastermind, Taylor and I are running one-on-one coaching calls with our mastermind students currently. And so we just sat down being like, we need to record some podcast episodes, and we just couldn't find a time. So we decided she's going to record a couple on her own. I'm going to record one here today, and I'm so excited to be talking with you guys. So what I'm going to be talking with you guys today is how to create artistry that stands the test of time. I'll tell you what I mean by this. So we have been in business for 15 years. We're coming up on our 15-year anniversary as 618 Studios. Paul and I filmed our very first wedding in August of 2010, and now we're sitting here in 2015. And it is really, really exciting, and it's a cool time to be in because in year 1, year 2, year 3, you're really figuring it all out, right? You might be sitting here being like, I'm a baby in my business as well, and I'm just figuring it all out. And what I love about being an entrepreneur in the wedding industry is that we all start at the same starting line. Taylor started at the same starting line, I started at the same starting line, and you have as well. And in those beginning years, like I said, it is truly just about figuring it out. We're getting to know our cameras. We're understanding maybe editing more, our color grading process. Maybe we haven't dove quite into the deep understanding of branding and messaging just yet, but it is like YouTube University core in this season. And I understand it because I was there myself. So many of our 2015 clients are having their 10-year anniversary, right? It's a big milestone for many of our 2015 clients. And what I've been loving this year, being now 15 years into the business, is that I'm finally at a place where I can look back on my craft 10 years back when I actually thought I had it all figured out. So I was 5 years into business. Maybe some of you here are in that 5, 6, 7 year of business, and you're like, okay, cool. Like I've nailed down, my craft, my artistry. I know what to do. I can execute a wedding day. I think at that time, Paul and I had shot over 100 weddings, well over 100 weddings at that point. And so we had it going. Like we had our systems. We knew what to do. We could confidently show up on a wedding day. I will say we did not have the strategy in place when it came to just like business marketing and things like that. But when it came to us as filmmakers, like we could show up, we could do a great job, we could deliver a great product. And I like had so much confidence in what we were delivering to our couples. And so, like I said, it's cool now to be able to look back and recognize where I felt like I was as an artist 5 years into business and look back and see like, okay, where did I serve my clients really well? Where did I felt like I served my clients really well, but I actually had a lot of growing to do. And so it's really cool to be able to watch back on these films. And the reason why I'm telling you this, long story long, if you know me, I'm going to give you like all the bonus features of a story or even short story long. I saw that meme recently and I'm like, that speaks to me to my core. So we had this really, really sweet client. I'm still friends with them on Instagram, and I saw that they celebrated their 10-year anniversary in May, and they posted their full wedding film. And I was like, I'm going to watch this. Like, it's been probably also 9 or 10 years since I've watched their wedding film, and I'm going to take notes. And I want to see if I had it all as figured out as I thought that I did in year 5, now sitting here in year 15. So I actually have notes. Taylor would be so proud of me because, she's our type A girl and I am like our type B/C girl. And I'm always like, she's like, we need a strategy. We need an agenda. I'm going to put together like an outline for this podcast episode. And I'm always like, you know what? Let's just like chat. Like, let's just hang out. Let's chat, whatever. So we're just literally each other's yin to our yang. And so I have notes. Podcast episode. Taylor would be so proud. So based on what I looked at when I was looking at this film is I was taking notes on what I was really proud of, what stood the test of time and served the client really well, and I gave myself like a little pat on the back by watching through and seeing that I valued those things and I took the time and attention into making sure that that was a part of the film or weaving the film together in the way that I did, so that this client can really find this to be a legacy piece. And it's cool now too because I know that this client has a couple of kids. I think they might even have 3 kids, and them experiencing their wedding film with their kids now, like it really is becoming that legacy piece that Paul and I really intend for a wedding film to be when we show up on a wedding weekend. And so it's really cool to see that come to fruition through just the years that we've had in business now and to see it show through. And so I don't know which one I'm going to do first. I have what I'm proud of, and then I have a segment down here of what needed improvement. And I was a pretty harsh critic, but I think that that's what really makes us strong business owners and strong artists is to be really real with ourselves and be our harshest critic. And so I'll do, I guess, what I'm most proud of. So first things first is when I started playing this film, I actually knew that a few years ago, the bride had lost her father. And I immediately the very first thing that I was hyper aware of when pressing play on this film was looking for all of the spots that her dad was included in the wedding film and that she was probably searching for those spots as well. So I was looking for that, looking at ways that I incorporated the VIPs of the wedding day, meaning immediate family, maid of honors, best man, siblings, all that stuff, right? Paul and I actually also celebrated our 15-year anniversary in June. And for the very first time, my son, who is 6, Micah, he asked if he could watch our wedding video. He watches like us edit wedding videos all the time. And so he just assumed that we had a wedding video too. And so we're like, yeah, we'd love to. And it was really cool to do that too. It was like kind of a palate cleanser for myself going into this summer season to see what mattered. Like what really mattered when you watched it back 15 years later. And I want to take that and I want to pour that into my couples. And so I was finding myself pointing out grandparents that he didn't ever get a chance to meet. I found myself really pointing out his uncle Jared, who was only like 11 years old at the time, and now he's grown up. And so Micah seeing Jared as a little boy, that was really interesting to him. And obviously like for things that are interesting to him are things that he has his own like context of. So for him, that means his aunts, his uncles, his grandparents, his great-grandparents maybe. There was some great-grandparents that he was able to meet. And so pointing them out, even my grandpa who passed away last year, he could point him out and say like, oh, that's Grandpa Al. And so family really is, when it all comes down to it, something that I really don't think that should be like skipped on. Sure, I know that the decor and detail is great, and there's some notes in here that I had specifically about where I needed improvement on decor and detail, but watching it back 15 years later, watching this client's film back 10 years later, I was searching for family. I was searching for family on their behalf. I was searching for family on my behalf when I watched that. And so I just think that it's something to kind of restructure in our minds if we've kind of gotten caught in the rat race of what is visually appealing, what's going to make for the greatest reels, what's going to be the biggest wow moments. Just know that you shouldn't neglect those core family moments in the midst of really trying to impress those within the industry. It's really important that we keep our clients at the forefront of our artistry. And so that was just something that I was proud of, that I incorporated a good amount of the bride's father. I incorporated his speech, a lot of things from his speech. And I know that that probably just means the world to her to be able to hear his voice again after, he hasn't been an active, in her life for a couple of years now. So I said here on what I'm proud of, I said, focusing on the narrative of the day. So their vows, their ceremony, their toasts. There's something that I do when I'm editing. I actually do all of my own editing. I love it. It's a part of the post-production process that I absolutely love. And I know that a lot of people out there outsource their editing. And I think that that is so brilliant if it serves you really well. But what serves me really well is to do the editing myself. I really enjoy it. I'm a film major, you guys. Like, I'm a filmmaker through and through to my core. I'm like graduated with a degree in cinema digital. So yeah, I love all of the moving parts of the actual filming and the editing and the color grading. Like, it's what I knew that I loved before I knew that I would love filming weddings. And so narrative is so important. Incorporating audio. I'll get to what needed improvement on the audio side in a little bit, but yeah, I also felt like I was really proud of the fact that this film felt truly timeless. And what do I mean by that? And for me, that means not falling into harsh editing trends. I know that right now we are kind of in a little bit of a blend of harsh editing trends. If I'm being totally honest, over 15 years, I have seen many trends come and go. And so I can kind of see from the outside that we are in a bit of an editing trend currently. And I do love some elements of it, but part of it I know isn't going to always be around for all that much longer, if that makes sense. And so in 2015, we were coming out of, I can remember, and for those who were filming also in, the 2011, 2012, 2013, there was a really interesting editing style on the photography side, and it was starting to translate over to video as well, where it was a very warm editing tone. It lacked a lot of contrast, and there was a ton of warmth. And part of it was because we were, as stylistically, design-wise, this was the age of the mason jars and, the Gerber daisies and all that stuff. And so it was really falling into kind of like that laid back backyard feel, and this editing trend just like took over. And I remember really wrestling with that back then, being like, is our stuff not going to look current or on trend if we're doing this? And I just kind of stuck to what I felt best, and that was just to edit as true to color as possible. And I'm so glad that I did, because I know that there was some years where I swayed a little bit more into a trendy preset or filter, and looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, client. I mean, they probably don't know, but I'm sitting there being like, I could have done better. Like, I could have done better. And so with this one that I watched through, I was like, okay, there's definitely things that I wish I would have improved color grading wise, but from what was quote unquote trendy at the time, or we were just kind of coming out of that trend, I was glad that I didn't get stuck in editing in that way. So also things like, I've never been really huge on incorporating like names in the title or things like that. And so I'm happy that I never like hopped onto like certain font trends for the clients' names or where they got married or their date and things like that. I just really kept things very classic. So I'm proud of myself on that. Okay, so those were the things that I was proud of. So basically, I was really proud of the fact that it felt really solid. It had a solid narrative. I loved that I incorporated audio throughout, really wove together a story of the day, and kept my editing style and any sort of like treatments. Like, also, I will say, back in the day, like faux light leaks were like a part of video a lot of the time back then, and I'm glad I never did that as well, because I think I would have been looking back at that being like, did that serve the day in a way that I felt like it would have back then? Probably not. So now let's get into what needed improvement. So I talked about what I was proud of, and then, like I said, I'm being my own harshest critic, and what needed improvement. And I want to tell you this because I want you guys to kind of maybe think at where, kind of fix maybe some improvement areas before you get 10 years down the road and kind of realize that it needed to be a focal point of your process earlier than it should have. Okay. So, first things first is I've always been kind of a late adopter. Taylor is more of like our early adopter in so many ways, but I like really take my time to um, put a lot of thought into like if I want to um, incorporate a new type of stabilizer or a new type of film within our film, like 16 millimeter or Super 8 or something like that. Like, I really just stick to what I know and I just continue through that. And that has been really great in some ways, but in other ways, I really do feel like it has held us back in growth of like growing with the way in which the industry has risen from a production standpoint. So, for example, I'm going to bring in drone, for example. Drones were really entering the scene in 2014. And we were like, we don't need drones. That's so ridiculous. That's way too high production for what we want to do. Like, oh my gosh, if we were to see ourselves like back then, like how much we fly a drone around all the time now, we would be laughing at ourselves. But basically, like I should have been like, when I watched this film, I was like, where was the drone? And I'm like, oh, I just like kept myself back and held myself back from adopting these higher level production practices. Oh my goodness. Because honestly, it came from fear. It came from us feeling very comfortable, falling into a season of comfort in that we knew how to execute a wedding day as we currently knew it, how to work our cameras, where to place our cameras here, which cameras to use for here. Like, we really had it dialed down to a science. And the thought of bringing in another type of camera system or an extra layer of production on the wedding day, honestly, just kind of scared us, and being like, we don't have time for that. Who has time for that? We're not going to jump into the drone trend. And actually, funny enough, I'm pretty sure we shot drone at for the first time at a wedding the following month in June of 2015. So this wedding was probably one of our last weddings that didn't incorporate drone. And so yeah, I feel like that would be something where when I watched this back, I was like, where was the drone? Why hadn't we like introduced that into our wedding day workflow? And so I was kind of disappointed in myself that I hadn't been an earlier on adopter of that. And so if you're kind of sitting here being like, as maybe a photographer, and you're like, I don't have a drone yet, I need to get it on it, but it does sound very daunting to add this to my wedding day workflow process, just know that I am probably at my core, like the latest adopter that you might ever meet. And I did it and made it happen. And it has served our business so, so well. And so I would really encourage you to step outside of your comfort zone and adopt some of those newer techniques and practices that are happening within the industry so that you can really stay up to date with client expectations. And if you're looking to scale your business into higher levels of the market, it's really going to be something that a lot of those clients or the creative partners really expect. And so, yeah, I say hop in, go all in, don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. And you'll be so, so thankful that you did. The next one, I have a note in here, and I basically just wrote down, I needed to step back. So by that, I meant I was shooting like everything was so tight. I didn't ever give myself a chance to just step back in the scene and shoot wider. And part of that I recognize is that I was really used to bridging the gap with the weddings that I had and making them look more elevated than they really were. Yes, I could like really nail down a tight of a tablescape, but I couldn't really get wide because it wasn't as impressive as, say, the weddings maybe that we shoot now that have full installations and draping and things like that. And as my business started to rise and I started having, more luxury-esque events, I, for the longest time, just had these blinders on of feeling so just like too tight in the scenes and not stepping back. So I just needed to step back. And I really encourage you as a photographer or filmmaker, if you're feeling like the way in which you're capturing an event is like so tight and we're not getting the full context of the scene and the story, then this may be your reminder to just step back, take it all in, maybe see if there's certain corners of the room that translate better than other corners of the room. Because when I started doing that, it really allowed me, and it allowed the viewer to be able to be brought into the scene in a different way. And I actually love that photographers, when they shoot more, wides and scenery from the wedding venue or certain things like that. Maybe it's where a rehearsal dinner took place and they took, 5 to 10 minutes before they started to just walk the block and get some little vignettes of what was happening within the little city that the rehearsal dinner is taking place in. Those go a really long way in just deepening the narrative of your galleries and of your films as well. So stepping back was something that I noticed that I was really missing in my workflow 10 years ago. Next is, and this kind of goes with stepping back. It's another thing that I would really encourage you is to take time to experience the sensory feeling of each scene. So by taking that step back, maybe it's cocktail hour, for example. What are the sounds that you're hearing? What are the things that the guests are tasting or drinking or hearing, things like that, whatever it is, using all of those sensory things to build a deeper narrative so that it really feels like how it felt in the galleries and in the film. I was like, for many years, just so focused on just the people, which again are so, so important. But I could have taken that step back and captured, the bartender making drinks, what were the signature cocktails? Like there's a story in there. And it's going to get to one of my other points coming up are like small vignettes, but we'll get there. And what were they eating or other like little moments of, was there like lounge furniture that I could have captured that would have, brought a deeper narrative to the story. So just kind of looking and experiencing. And I was working with a photographer actually a couple months ago, and he was I had a little pre-wedding meeting. I was just kind of sitting in with his team. It was him and two other photographers. And he even said, he made it a point to say, don't forget to just check in with your senses throughout the wedding day and capture what you're hearing, capture what the guests are eating, capture what the guests are drinking, the fashion moments, all those things that bring and evoke feeling into our imagery is really what is that next level approach. And I just love that reminder. So I wanted to give you that reminder too. Maybe you're driving to a wedding day right now, or you have a really great wedding coming up this weekend. Think about those sensory things. It's going to serve your art really, really well. Okay. Actually, this goes right into my next one. I was overly focused on the main event and lost sight of the small stories happening in the vignettes. So, for example, the way that this reception was laid out was that they had all the dancing inside. So they had, a really great packed dance floor. It was super fun. Energy was high. But then just outside, they had like two balconies that had other guest experiential things like a cigar roller. And I still remember this, but like none of that was shot because I was so focused on just what was like the height of the party, that I lost sense of, again, taking a step back and checking in with all of like the sensory things in order to capture a more well built out story in the small vignettes. Like I was just dance floor. I was just dance floor. Like my blinders were just dance floor and that was it. Where I missed maybe, I could have missed something like granddaughter sleeping on grandma's shoulder, like off in the corner of the room, or what was happening in the conversations and the fun moments out at the bar outside and things like that. So really just doing laps. Paul and I say it too, like when it's kind of getting those late evening hours of like, I'm going to go take a lap. And sometimes when you just go take a lap, there's something else that you notice and recognize, and then you can shoot that as well. So, first taking that step back, then taking my time to experience the sensory feelings, and then looking for those smaller vignettes and where stories also take place. So it's not just about the moments of the big, powerful moments, but little things like that. I even like look for that in like say cake cutting. So obviously cake cutting is one of those main reception formalities. And if I have a moment and if my shot is set up in a way that I can, sometimes I'll shift my focus to the parents of the groom that are kind of like cuddled up to each other, just like taking in that moment. Like there's a story there. And so not just being so hyper focused in on the main event, but the smaller vignettes within that main event that can build out a more in-depth story. And then lastly, that color grading has been a huge part of my life as a filmmaker. 5 years after this, so in 2020, was when I created Illume Lutz. So 2015 was when I would say like 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, those 4 years were very pivotal in me doing some really deep diving into my color grading process. And then in turn, 3 years later, developing Illume Lutz for filmmakers so that they can have more of a clear and consistent color grading process for themselves too. But looking back in 2015, I could tell that I was kind of doing some trial and error with a bunch of things. I was really, really blowing out my highlights. I didn't realize that I could not just play with the exposure tab, I could also bring up the shadows and not lose the details in like the whites of the bride's dress and things like that. So I did look back on some of the shots within that film where I was like, ooh, I did that color grade dirty on that. Like all the white roses just look like totally blown out. So I just think it's such a great practice to look back on work that you produced 3 years ago, 5 years ago, even a year ago, and look for the areas that you can really improve. I think it's so smart for us to not just look ahead, but look back on where we came from and really just it humbled myself. If I'm being completely honest, it totally humbled myself in looking back when I was 5 years into business, thinking that I was hotshot Kelley. I had it all figured out. And now I'm 15 years sitting here looking back 10 years ago and seeing like, okay, I needed improvement here. I'm never going to stop learning. And here, even in 2025, there's going to be things that I probably look back 5 years in 2030 and say, I thought I had it all figured out in 2025. And these were the missing pieces of the puzzle in order to serve my client to the best of my ability. And for all of us to serve our clients really, really well, time and time again, season after season. So I hope that was really helpful for you guys. I miss Taylor a lot. If you miss Taylor too on this one, send us a DM on Instagram. We are at The Level Up Co. And tell us what you thought of this solo. And if you missed the banter and the dynamics between Taylor and I definitely missed her. And I'm looking forward for us to get our kids back into school. We're actually taking a vacation next week to Montana. And at the same time, Taylor's going to be in Tahoe for the week. And so those are just other personal things. I talked a lot about level up stuff we have going on, but we have so many other personal things. And if you are a parent that has kids out for the summer, you know that it is hard to get those working hours in. So thank you so much for joining me this week. It's an honor to talk with you. It's always an honor to be in conversation with our listeners. So we love when we get a DM or a comment on here over on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. And we look forward to talking with you next week too.
Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.